This is a very dirty Corsair K70. And in some form or another, this has been Corsair's high-end adjacent mechanical keyboard for ages now. And I used to think it was a very good keyboard. I mean, it comes with a metal backplate and a volume wheel. It's not a very good volume wheel, but it's got a volume wheel on it. And for the privilege of said volume wheel, it costs $160 US. It's an expensive keyboard. The thing is though, we might be living through its extinction event, because at the moment on Amazon, you can buy a keyboard like this. This is an Maker M, and straight off the bat, it is a different form factor, so it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, but this is a much better keyboard than the Corsair K70. All I need to do to prove that to you is type on both of them at you. I mean, that is a huge difference. Now obviously the sound of a mechanical keyboard is subjective, but if you prefer the Corsair keyboard there, you're just wrong. Typing on it sounds like you're being attacked with duck's feet in a tin shed. Whereas with the Maker M, each keystroke has a satisfying damped thud to it. And everybody knows the more damped a thud, the more refined it is. And not only are you getting a much better typing experience with the Maker M, but it's also wireless, which the K70 isn't. It's got Bluetooth and 2.4 GHz dongle support, and it's even got a better volume wheel on it. Now you may be thinking, David, why are you comparing the K70 to a clearly much more expensive keyboard? But that's the thing, this is way cheaper than the Corsair keyboard. In fact, it's kind of suspiciously cheap. And it's not like this is the only option. Currently on Amazon, there's a veritable tidal wave of suspiciously cheap mechanical keyboard options. So have they just mastered the art of mass producing high quality mechanical keyboards at a very low price? Or is there some kind of catch? I think there may be a bit of a catch. But first, today's video is sponsored by Micro Center and their March Monitor Madness sale. And not only can you save a bunch of money on these big OLED monitors, but if you're looking for something a bit more modest, Micro Center's got your back. Aside from that, Micro Center can also help you recycle or trade in your old graphics cards using the link down below, which you can do soon TM at the new Micro Center Santa Clara when it opens. Sign up with the link down below to receive a free 128 gig flash drive in store when it opens. Also, Micro Center news, link down below. Now aside from the $90 Maker keyboard, I wanted to get a bit more of a variety for this video, but currently shopping for a mechanical keyboard on Amazon is like picking your favorite bit of debris in a hurricane. So I just picked some that I was drawn to in a variety of price ranges. Starting with this $60-ish RK Royal keyboard. Because it's cheaper, you do lose wireless functionality, and generally the build quality is definitely a step down from the Maker, but it still feels nice to type on. I mean, that is also a huge step up from the Corsair keyboard. According to the Amazon page, they use Silver Switch Pros, which I don't know if they're referring to the Acco switches or if it's a generic thing, but the Silver Switches does make it a very good comparison to the K70 because it has Cherry MX Speed Silvers in it. Anyway, straight off the bat, I did have an issue with the RK Royal keyboard. It didn't come with a USB-C cable. It's meant to, but I'm just not cool enough to get one. Oh, and the RGB is wildly dim on it, and the fact that the keycaps don't have translucent lettering doesn't help the visibility of it either, but it's still there if that's important to you. Now the next step down in terms of price is this Fogeroden, which cost about $36 and for that you're getting a lovely looking keyboard. If you have it in a lineup with a bunch of much more expensive keyboards and you don't touch any of them, you'd think that it cost about the same amount. That illusion falls apart the moment you interact with it though. This is some flimsy, light feeling plastic. Now this is another linear switched keyboard with a generic red switch in it, which feels very mushy to type on in this case. But at least it's pretty quiet. It doesn't sound like you're trying to play drums on a bit of corrugated iron. Again, you're getting real dim RGB here, but it makes up for it with a volume wheel, which seems to be standard these days, something I'm very excited about. Oh, and the Fogeroden did come with a cable, and it's pretty decent. It's a white, like, braided-ish cable. So now we're getting to the very cheap end of the spectrum. This Mctenthiddy cost about $30, or what a Big Mac's gonna cost in like 2 years from now. And for that price, you're really starting to feel the budgetness of the keyboard. The casing is very cheap feeling. I mean, this plastic wouldn't be out of place in a dollar store Barbie accessory. It's kind of wild. Now, the switches in it are just yellow switches, is what they call it, and yeah, I mean, it's a linear feeling switch. It's not a great feeling keyboard, but interestingly, its typing experience isn't, like, worse necessarily than... The Corsair keyboard definitely has much better build quality and keycaps and stuff, but it is in desperate need of some dampening or something. I almost prefer the way that typing feels on this $30 keyboard. Interestingly, the cable that came with the Mctenthiddy initially didn't work. I tried it on a bunch of different keyboards and I couldn't get any of them to function plugged in using that cable, despite the RK Royals RGB still lighting up with it for some reason. But then when I came back to the cable a while later, everything just worked with it all of a sudden. And that is where the problem with these keyboards lie. They're borderline emotionally abusive. Getting back to the Epomaker keyboard that I spoke about in the beginning of the video, I've had it for ages, but I've only spent about 20 hours using it, because every time I start using it, some new, different thing won't be working on it. For example, there was a while where the delete key would randomly just stick fully open, which can cause a huge amount of damage to a Premiere Pro project. An incident I still haven't recovered from and is pretty much the entire reason I'm making this video. And aside from various other keys also sticking, for a while it just randomly wouldn't connect wirelessly to its own dongle, and then it stopped working plugged in for some reason. Unfortunately, I don't have video evidence of any of these examples, but for this video I did plug it into a system and try out some button combinations with a keylogger to see what way it would abuse me in this time. And while doing some random smacking on keys, the Windows key stopped working. Even though it's working right here when I started the process, but 5 keystrokes later it just broke. At which point, I decided to open up the keyboard to investigate what's inside and hopefully release the soul of Margaret Thatcher that's trapped inside of it or whatever. And once inside, I didn't notice any obvious ectoplasm or like PCB damage, but this keyboard does use hot swappable switches, so I thought maybe there was a bit of contact issue, because I can't imagine that the Gateron yellow switch died after just a couple hours of use. So I decided to reseat the switch, but unfortunately, that didn't fix the problem. Okay, so before we carry on, yes, I did indeed lose a fight with a light stand in my office. It snuck up on me while I was on my phone walking around. That was a rookie error. But anyway, getting back to the keyboard, no, reseating the switch didn't fix it. And I even swapped it out with a different working switch on a different part of the keyboard, and it still doesn't work, which implies the problem is with the PCB. So there's either an issue with the actual contact in like the hot swappableness of it, or there's some damage on the PCB. I'm not sure what it is, but my point stands, the keyboard doesn't work good. And if I compare that experience to experience I've had with a Keychron magnetic switched keyboard that they sent over a while ago, I've been using that with my personal system, and that keyboard's been rock solid. I've had no connection issues with it, no keys sticking, nothing. Ooh. So basically, the point that I'm laboriously getting to here is that yes, there are a bunch of great value for money seeming options on Amazon. And when you get the keyboard, it may initially seem amazing and sound great, but you're likely still getting what you're paying for. The part you're just losing out on is reliability. Now, I'm not saying they're all gonna break, but in the reviews on these keyboards, there are a bunch of people complaining about various reliability issues that they've had with it. So yeah, it might still be worth getting a keyboard from a reputable brand, even if it does seem like you're paying a lot more for the features. And by that, I don't mean the K70. That keyboard is a relic of a bygone era of mechanical keyboards. Although I have never had one of those break. But yeah, with that, it brings me to the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel, and until the next video, bye-bye.